On a cold Tuesday morning in November, 24-year-old Amara Reed received a phone call that would change her life forever. A lawyer in Seoul, South Korea, speaking careful English, told her that a woman named Park Soon-ja had passed away, and that this woman, a grandmother Amara had never met, had never even heard of, had left her everything: $2 million, a house in Gangnam, a restaurant, and a letter that began with the words, "My dearest granddaughter, I have been watching you your entire life, and I am so proud of who you've become." Amara hung up, convinced it was a scam. But 3 days later, when the lawyer's office sent official documents, when her mother saw the name Park Soon-ja and burst into tears, when the truth finally came out, Amara realized something that shook her to her core. Her entire life had been a lie, and the grandmother who'd left her a fortune had died protecting a secret that would unravel everything Amara thought she knew about love, family, and belonging. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to discover you're not who you thought you were, stay close, because this story will break your heart before it puts it back together. Amara Reed grew up in a small apartment in Atlanta, raised by her mother, Jasmine Reed, a woman who worked 2 jobs and never complained. Amara's father had left before she was born, or at least that's what her mother always told her. Jasmine didn't talk about him much. When Amara asked as a child, her mother would smile sadly and say, "He wasn't ready to be a father, baby. But that's okay. We don't need him. We have each other." And they did. Jasmine was everything to Amara: mother, father, best friend. She worked as a nurse during the day and cleaned offices at night so Amara could go to a good school, take piano lessons, have the childhood Jasmine never had. Amara knew her mother was exhausted. She saw it in the way Jasmine fell asleep on the couch still in her scrubs, in the way her hands shook sometimes when she counted bills at the kitchen table. But Jasmine never let Amara see her break, never let her feel like they were struggling. Amara grew up believing love looked like sacrifice, like her mother's tired smile, like the way Jasmine would skip meals so Amara could eat. And Amara worked hard to make her mother proud. She graduated high school with honors, got a scholarship to Georgia State, studied business, graduated with a degree and a plan to open her own event planning company someday. But money was tight. Amara was working 3 part-time jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to save enough to make her dreams real. And then the phone call came. At first, Amara thought it was a scam, some elaborate scheme to steal her identity or trick her into sending money overseas. But the lawyer, a man named Kim Tae-hyun, was patient. He sent her documents, certificates, proof that Park Soon-ja had passed away at the age of 78, proof that Amara Reed was listed as the sole beneficiary of her estate, and a copy of Soon-ja's will, handwritten in Korean with an English translation attached. Amara sat at her kitchen table, staring at the papers, hands shaking. "Mom," she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine came into the kitchen, dish towel in hand, and froze when she saw the documents. Her face went pale. "Where did you get this?" Jasmine whispered. "A lawyer in Seoul sent it." "Mom, who is Park Soon-ja?" Jasmine sat down heavily, her legs seeming to give out. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a voice so quiet, Amara almost didn't hear her, she said, "She was your grandmother." Amara's heart stopped. "What?" Tears filled Jasmine's eyes. "Your father. His name was Park Ji-hoon. He was Korean. And Soon-ja was his mother." The story came out slowly, painfully. Over the next hour, Jasmine told Amara everything. How she'd met Ji-hoon 25 years ago, when she was 22 and he was 24. He'd been in Atlanta for graduate school, studying architecture. They met at a coffee shop. He was kind, funny, gentle. They fell in love, quickly, deeply. Within 6 months, Jasmine was pregnant. Ji-hoon was terrified, but excited. He wanted to marry her, wanted to build a life together. But when he told his family back in Korea, everything fell apart. His father, a wealthy businessman, was furious. He forbade Ji-hoon from marrying Jasmine, told him that if he did, he'd be disowned, cut off financially, erased from the family. Ji-hoon tried to fight, tried to stand up to his father, but the pressure was too much. His father threatened to ruin Jasmine's life, to make sure she never got a job, never got financial aid, never escaped poverty. Ji-hoon believed him. And so, 3 months before Amara was born, Ji-hoon left. He went back to Korea. He sent Jasmine money for a while, secretly, but eventually even that stopped. Jasmine never heard from him again. "I thought he forgot about us," Jasmine said, tears streaming down her face. "I thought he chose his family over you. Over us. But now I wonder if his mother knew." If she was watching, Amara felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jasmine reached for her hand. "Because I didn't want you to feel abandoned. I didn't want you to grow up thinking your father didn't love you. I thought it was easier this way." Amara pulled her hand back, anger rising. "Easier? Mom, I had a grandmother. A whole family I never knew about. And you kept that from me. I was trying to protect you. From what? The truth?" Jasmine's face crumpled. "From being hurt the way I was hurt." The two of them sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Amara stood. "I'm going to Seoul." Jasmine looked up, alarmed. "What?" "The lawyer said I need to sign papers, settle the estate. I'm going." "Amara, you don't have to do this." Amara's voice was firm. "Yes, I do, because that woman, that grandmother I never met, left me everything she had, and I need to know why. Before we go any further, we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love hearing from you. And if you're new to Afro-Korean love stories, we share powerful stories about love, identity, and connection across cultures. We'd be honored if you subscribed and joined this journey with us. 2 weeks later, Amara landed at Incheon International Airport. It was her first time leaving the United States, her first time on a plane, her first time seeing a world that was supposed to be half of her heritage but felt completely foreign. Seoul was overwhelming. The signs in Hangul she couldn't read, the subway system she didn't understand, the food she didn't recognize. But Kim Tae-hyun, the lawyer, met her at the airport. He was in his 50s, kind-faced, spoke excellent English. "Miss Reed," he said, bowing slightly. "Welcome to Korea. I'm so sorry for your loss." Amara nodded, unsure how to respond. "How do you mourn a grandmother you never knew?" Tae-hyun drove her to a hotel in Gangnam, helped her check in, and promised to meet her the next morning to go over the estate. That night, alone in her hotel room, Amara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Sunja, about the letter, about the words, "I have been watching you your entire life." What did that mean? How had she been watching? And why had she never reached out? The next morning, Tae-hyun took Amara to Sunja's house. It was a traditional hanok, a beautiful Korean-style home tucked into a quiet neighborhood. The wooden beams, the tiled roof, the small garden in the courtyard, it was stunning. "Your grandmother lived here for 40 years, Tae-hyun said as he unlocked the door. Inside, the house was immaculate, everything perfectly in place. Photos lined the walls, and as Amara walked through the rooms, she froze. Because the photos weren't just of Sunja's family, they were of her, baby pictures, school photos, her high school graduation, her college graduation, pictures Amara didn't even remember being taken. "How?" she whispered. Tae-hyun's expression was sad. "Your grandmother hired a private investigator when you were born. She had someone document your life from a distance. She wanted to know you, even if she couldn't be part of your life." Amara's chest tightened. Why couldn't she? Tae-hyun hesitated. "I think the letter will explain." He handed her an envelope. Thick, yellowed with age, sealed with red wax. Amara's hands shook as she opened it. Inside were several pages, handwritten in both Korean and English. She began to read. "My dearest Amara, by the time you read this, I will be gone. And I am so sorry that we never met. I want you to know that I loved you from the moment I learned of your existence. When my son told me he had gotten a woman pregnant, a black woman, an American, I was afraid. Not because of who you were, but because of who my husband was. Your grandfather, Park Dae-jung, was a cruel man. He believed in bloodlines, in purity, in tradition above all else. When Ji-hoon told him about you, Dae-jung threatened to destroy your mother's life. He had connections, power, and he would have used them. So I made a choice. I told Ji-hoon to leave. I told him it was the only way to keep you and your mother safe. And I promised Dae-jung that Ji-hoon would never contact you again. In return, Dae-jung agreed to leave your mother alone. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. But I did it because I loved you. Amara's vision blurred with tears. The letter continued. I have watched you grow from afar. I have seen you become a strong, kind, intelligent woman. And I am so proud. I wish I could have held you. Wish I could have told you stories, taught you to cook Korean food, sung you to sleep, but I couldn't. And for that, I am deeply sorry. I am leaving you everything I have because I want you to know that you were always loved, always wanted, always part of this family. Even if the world tried to keep us apart, I hope you can forgive me, I hope you can forgive your father, and I hope you find the love and belonging you deserve. With all my heart, your Halmioni, Sunja. Amara sat on the floor and cried. For the grandmother she never knew. For the father who'd been forced to leave, for the life they could have had, for the love that had been stolen from all of them. If you're still watching, drop a heart emoji in the comments. Let us know you're here. Because this story is about to take a turn that will change everything. Over the next week, Amara explored her grandmother's house. She found recipes written in Sunja's handwriting, photo albums filled with pictures of Ji-hoon as a child, letters Sunja had written to Amara but never sent. And in a locked drawer in Sunja's bedroom, Amara found something that made her heart stop. A journal, written entirely in Korean. Amara couldn't read it, so she asked Taehyun to translate. What he read to her shattered her. Sunja had written about Ji-hoon's death. He had died 8 years ago, car accident. But in her journal, Sunja wrote something that made Amara's blood run cold. I don't believe it was an accident. Dae-jung was furious that Ji-hoon had been sending money to Jasmine in secret. He found out. And 2 weeks later, Ji-hoon was dead. I can't prove it. But I know my husband, and I will never forgive him. Amara stared at Taehyun. Her husband killed her son? Taehyun's face was grim. I don't know. But Sunja believed it, and she spent the last 8 years of her life gathering evidence. Amara found the evidence Sunja had collected, bank records, emails, testimonies from people who'd worked for Dae-jung. It wasn't enough to prove murder, but it was enough to show that Dae-jung had been involved in illegal activities, bribery, extortion, threats. Sunja had been planning to go to the authorities, but she died before she could. Now, the question was, what would Amara do? She could walk away, take the money, sell the house, go back to Atlanta, and pretend none of this ever happened. Or she could finish what Sunja started. She could expose Dae-jung. She could get justice for the father she never knew. It was Taehyun who finally said what Amara had been thinking. Your grandfather is still alive. He's 82. In poor health. But alive. If you wanted to confront him, I could arrange it. Amara thought about it for 3 days, and then she said yes. The meeting was arranged at Dae-jung's estate, a massive, cold, intimidating mansion on the outskirts of Seoul. Amara walked in with Taehyun by her side, heart pounding. Dae-jung was in a wheelchair, frail, but his eyes were still sharp, cold. When he saw Amara, his expression didn't change. So, he said in accented English, you're the bastard granddaughter. Amara's jaw tightened. I'm Amara, Ji-hoon's daughter. Dae-jung sneered. Ji-hoon was weak. He dishonored this family. He loved my mother. Love. Dae-jung spat the word. Love is a weakness. He should have married a proper Korean woman. Should have had proper Korean children. Amara stepped forward. He had me. And your wife, the woman you claim to have loved, spent the last years of her life hating you for what you did. For the first time, Dae-jung's expression faltered. Sunja didn't understand. She understood perfectly. She knew you killed Ji-hoon. The room went silent. Dae-jung's hands gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. You have no proof. Amara smiled coldly. I have everything Sunja collected. And I'm giving it to the authorities. Your legacy won't be wealth or power, it'll be shame. Dae-jung's face twisted with rage. But before he could respond, Amara turned and walked out. She never saw him again. 2 months later, Dae-jung died. The investigation Sunja had started led to multiple arrests of people in his organization. His name was dragged through the media. And Amara? She stayed in Korea. She reopened Sunja's restaurant, a small, beloved spot that had been closed since her death. She learned Korean. She connected with distant relatives who welcomed her with open arms. And she built the life Sunja had always dreamed of for her. If you believe every family has a story worth telling, Afro-Korean love stories would love for you to be part of ours. We share real, powerful stories about love and identity. If this moved you, consider subscribing. We'd be honored to have you here. 1 year after arriving in Seoul, Amara met someone. His name was Kang Min-ho, a chef who'd worked for Sunja years ago. He was kind, patient, and when he learned Amara's story, he cried. Your grandmother talked about you all the time, he said. She loved you so much. They became friends, then something more, and 2 years later, they got married, in Sunja's garden, surrounded by family. Amara's mother flew in from Atlanta, and as Amara stood there in her wedding hanbok, she looked up at the sky and whispered, Thank you, Halmioni, for everything. Because Sunja hadn't just left her money. She'd left her a legacy, a family, a home, and the knowledge that love, real love, never dies. It just waits for the right moment to bloom. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us what you felt. Tell us if you've ever discovered something about your family that changed everything. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Afro-Korean Love Stories. Because every story we share is a reminder that love has no borders. And that family is more than blood. It's choice, it's sacrifice. It's love that lasts beyond a lifetime. Thank you for being here.